Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your everyday theorist here. So I originally planned on making this video completely original, but I thought it was in my best interest to directly address this video, which inspired me to make the one you're watching. The video I'm referring to is this video by Joe the Average Gamer titled Joel Deserved Better, a Last of Us Part 2 review. Now before I get deep into this video, because believe me, I'm going to tear apart this video, I just wanted to say that this man did a really good job on his video. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was pieced together very nicely, and the narrative he was trying to drive was done very well. I just simply don't agree with what was said in the video at all. I do bring up the same points as he does in my video, but my video is obviously being made to simply just counter argue his video. So I'm not going to be explaining his reasoning or why he said the things he said, as I will obviously just be explaining my own opinions on these points. So if you guys want to go watch his video first, I highly suggest it and then come back. You guys do not have to though, I do explain his side a little bit. Lastly, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't played The Last of Us 2, go play it or watch a playthrough and don't watch his video if you don't want anything spoiled. So without further ado, let's get started. The first point the average gamer makes is that Joel and Tommy were dumb for getting ambushed in the beginning of the game. He explains that Joel and Tommy are very smart and cautious characters in the first game, which is completely true. However, he goes on to explain that Joel has encountered ambushes like this one in The Last of Us 2, but I honestly believe this is where the argument falls flat if you simply look at the two situations closely. The two ambushes that are being compared are very different. In the first Last of Us, the ambush is started way differently than the one in the second game. There is absolutely no action going on in the first one. Joel and Ellie are just driving, and out of nowhere a random man starts limping towards their car and asking for help. And it's in fact this strange, convenient way that the man places himself in front of the car is what tips Joel off to the fact that this is probably an ambush and not some guy asking for help. However, none of the actions that happen in The Last of Us 2 hints to the idea that this may be an ambush. Abby is currently in danger, which is not the same as someone conveniently walking out in front of a car asking for help. Because in one scenario, a person is literally about to be eaten alive by a zombie, and in the other, the person is in no immediate danger. So I honestly see no problem with Joel's decision to help Abby in The Last of Us 2, and I honestly don't think it was out of character. Now, just a side point before I completely move on from this topic, I'm sure there were a lot of people who saw the ambush in the first game coming from a mile away and thought it was pretty damn obvious that if there wasn't an ambush, at least something pretty damn crazy was about to go down. Just the way the guy walks out in front of the car is very suspicious and gives off some eerie vibe that something is about to happen right now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the player themselves can literally see this ambush coming, but no one in their right mind knew that Abby was going to ambush Joel in the first 2 hours until they got to that scene itself. There's no way you could see this coming, and I don't see how you could expect the characters themselves in the situation to see it coming when you, the player, literally see everything and can't see that coming. Hence the amount of shock value that this part had and why everyone was so damn shocked by it. It's also important to note that Joel catches wind of something fishy going on once they formally introduce themselves to the team, which in my opinion is the first time Joel and Tommy really get some breathing room from the situation they were just in to really analyze what is going on and what the situation they find themselves in currently. Because keep in mind, guys, moments before this, they were literally fighting for their life, and now Joel finally has time to think. In contrast to the first game, where Joel is already in a calm state and is able to use his brain to the fullest to analyze the situation at hand. In the second game, there is no time to think as zombies are already attacking in that moment. This is why I believe that it was not out of character for Joel to help Abby in the second game, because he had no time to think in the second game about the situation that was at hand. He simply had to act. In the first game, he was able to think. In the second game, he was not. The next point the average gamer brings up is how out of character it is for Joel and Tommy to go to Abby's shelter. So if you really look at the situation that they're in, their best option in the moment was to go to Abby's shelter and chance it, because the only other option they had was either stay in the building and attempt to barricade the doors and possibly get eaten alive by zombies if the zombies were able to break in. So their best course of action was in fact to just go to Abby's shelter, and that doesn't feel out of character for me. It feels like they thought the situation through and then decided the best course of action to take. Now, at no point do I feel like anything in this game was forced at all. The only thing that I feel was forced is Abby's character onto the player. Abby's introduction to the player is definitely a forced feeling, but I feel like this was done for a reason. and I will go into that reason later into this video. However, let's keep moving on. So just to conclude before I move on from the point, I don't think it was out of character for Joel and Tommy to go to Abby's shelter. So at this point, I think this video completely just like derails, and I'll explain why. The next point that is brought up is the way that Joel and Abby handle killing people off. So in the first game, Joel kills off Marlene because he doesn't want the threat of someone coming after him. The average gamer contrasts this by saying that Abby was dumb to leave Ellie and Tommy alive because Ellie and Tommy were clearly going to go after Abby once they had the chance to. Now this isn't lazy storytelling in my opinion. I think that by saying that, you're missing the point of her leaving Ellie and Tommy alive. Abby had no harsh feelings towards those characters as she only wanted Joel because Joel is the person who murdered her father. And one thing that a lot of people skim over in The Last of Us 2 is that a major theme in this game is revenge, the cycle of revenge, and the breaking of the cycle of revenge. This whole game's plot is based around revenge. Abby doesn't want to kill anyone on Joel's team. She only has beef with Joel for murdering her father. She doesn't care about anyone else. She just wants to get even. An eye for an eye, if you will. And as for Joel's decision in the first game to kill Marlene, I don't think that these two decisions were a matter of smarts, but rather a matter of character differences, character development differences. Now, in my opinion, in contrast to Joel, Abby is somewhat merciful in a sense that she only wants to get even with Joel and allows Tommy and Ellie to live after the fact to do whatever they want. And well, Joel literally murdered a bunch of innocent people and doomed humanity just to save one girl that he's attached to. Now, in that situation, you tell me who's the smart one. Now, at this point in the video, the average gamer addresses the typical argument towards Joel's death, which is that it fits the brutal realism of the game, which is true. However, he uses a point in the first game where Joel gets impaled by a rebar and says that if there was any point in the game to properly kill Joel off and enforce this brutal realism of The Last of Us, it would be this part right here. But if anything feels forced at this point, it's honestly this point he makes about the rebar killing Joel, because let's be honest with ourselves. Let's say Joel had died here. Now there really is no plot at all, so saying that this is a good point to kill him off makes honestly no sense whatsoever, and it feels just like a weak argument that he tried to find in order to explain his point so that people wouldn't be in the comments saying, it fits the brutal realism of the game, wah. I just honestly don't think this is a good argument for contrasting the brutal realism of the game. I honestly think, and I'll go into more detail later about why I think Joel's death was perfect the way it happened in The Last of Us 2, but I honestly do think that it fits the brutal realism of the game, and I'll go further in detail later. The next thing I want to explain is something that I'm sure a lot of people were bothered by, and is that why the hell was Abby not introduced to us, and why weren't we given any character development before Abby killed Joel off? Because a lot of people said that they would have enjoyed Joel's death had Abby gotten some character development beforehand, so we can have a reason as to why this happened. The reason I believe the game doesn't give any context as to who Abby is for one reason, and a very good reason in my opinion. I feel like The Last of Us 2 really tries to put you in the shoes of Abby, and I think they do it very well when you look at what is actually going on. They murdered Joel off with no context as to who Abby is. Now, how did this death make you feel? It made you feel a little bit cheated. You didn't get any awesome send-off, no emotional goodbye. You didn't get that awesome epic moment where Ellie says something to Joel and Joel says her goodbye to Ellie. One minute he's alive, the next he's dead. Now, why did they do this? Well, let's take a look at Abby's character. Did Abby get a proper send-off for her father? Or did she, without any context at all, just find her father brutally murdered by someone? This, in my opinion, is why they chose to leave Abby's character unknown in the beginning, so you can literally feel how Abby felt when she found out her father was dead. You feel cheated. You feel like this is bullshit. There's no way that this game can do this to me. My favorite character just got killed off, and there's no reason as to why. He just got killed off. And this, in my opinion, was a fantastic way to kill Joel off, to really enforce this idea. Now, if you were mad at Joel dying, then you should understand how Abby feels and her emotions and her intentions as to why she went about it the way she did. Now, aside from this point, I also don't really even agree that Joel deserved a proper heroic send-off in the first place. I feel like a lot of people were expecting him to have this like Superman-esque like type of send-off where he's the hero of this game. He deserves all this really neat shit to happen to him, and he deserves the best for him, and he deserves to say goodbye to Ellie, and that's just not The Last of Us, dude. It's not. Joel is not a heroic character. Joel acts on his own selfish needs, and it is in fact those same selfish needs that end up killing him. Joel's a morally great character, and his death shows that. The man that murders people for his own selfish needs does not deserve a heroic goodbye and doesn't get one. Ellie does not get to say her last words to Joel the way she wants to because Abby was never given that choice. Now at this point, the average gamer starts explaining the way he would have went about writing the story for The Last of Us 2, and the story he gives is pretty good. I don't think it's bad. I think he did a really good job explaining that, but I honestly think it's just wishful thinking, and I don't understand why people want this like heroic ending for Joel when he's never done anything like that. He just acts on his own selfish needs, and it's hard saying this after playing the games because you do build a bond with the character, but I feel like looking at the facts of what happened as opposed to playing on your own emotions, you really see why the things happened the way they did it in this game. And to say that Joel's death should not have to fit in the brutal realism of the game, and to say that it doesn't just doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, for God's sakes, in the first game you literally see Sarah die brutally in his arms, so I just feel like this game is just, it's real like that, and they keep it real like that in the second one too, and I feel like everyone is just trying to make excuses for the game being bad because their favorite character got killed off, and they don't want to accept that the game storytelling wasn't as bad as they're saying it is. Now, the last point I want to really touch on before I end this video, guys, is the theme of this game, which is revenge and the breaking of the cycle of revenge. So this is the reason Abby leaves Ellie and Tommy alive, and why at the end of the game, Ellie ultimately decides to leave Abby alive. Ellie realizes that if she kills Abby, that only more conflict is going to ensue, with Abby's team possibly searching for Ellie and hunting her down. And you know, people fail to realize this, and they conclude that when their feelings are hurt by a character's death, that the game's bad. Now, I feel like at this point in the video, a lot of people are going to get the wrong idea about me. I did not enjoy the ending of this game. I also wanted Abby to die just as much as the next person did, but I respect their decision to leave her alive because it keeps with the theme of the game, which is breaking this cycle of revenge. It's the same reason why Abby leaves Ellie and Tommy alive, and Ellie realizes that if she were to kill Abby, she would just be doing what Abby did to Joel, and she doesn't want to become that person. So she ultimately decides to leave her alive, and I honestly respect that decision wholeheartedly. So that was my Last of Us Part 2 and / average gamer video review. If you guys have any thoughts on this, let me know. Let me know if you guys think I addressed something wrong. Let me bring up some points. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions. I honestly am open to a lot of stuff. I just wanted to share my opinion on the game. I feel like a lot of people have been ripping on it unfairly, and just a lot of Reddit posts regarding like how the game was shit, and I just don't think it was as bad as everyone says, and I feel like a lot of people missed a lot of the major points the game was trying to get across. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.